So hey guys, excited about this podcast. I've got my friend Jason Grimsley on, and Jason is someone I've only met in the last year, helped him write his memoir. The title of the book is called Cross-Stitched. It's out now. It came out at the end of November, and you can buy it on Amazon or where books are sold. But I'm really excited about this conversation. Jason is a phenomenal human being. Him and his wife Dana and their family are just amazing people. Absolutely was honored to get to know them and help him write his memoir. This conversation is much like all the others we have. Jason shares his story. It's a wild and powerful story. Lots of highs and lows, but all along the way he's sharing how he's rethought and rediscovered the never-leaving love of God. I'm going to read a little bit from chapter 1 of the book, just to give you a little bit of flavor, and then I want to read a little bit of the book synopsis. You see, I've been the hustler and the hustled, the bully and the bully. I've learned to survive by striking first, defend by attacking, to win, to prove before anyone can disprove. I've earned my way in an unrelenting world, made it to the top, and broke my body, heart, and spirit on the cruel systems of ego and striving. And I've been to the bottom, to hell. And I've learned, like David wrote in another of his Psalms, if I ascend into hell, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. I've learned that God doesn't leave. He's with me. He carries me. I've known the praise of man, the success and excess of winning in a world defined by the winners, and God was with me. I've been a self-made man, my own savior. I've died on the cross of my ego, and God was with me. I've been the prodigal son and the older brother. Hell, I've been both in the same day. I've been lost and found and lost and found again, and God was with me. I've discovered life and life more abundantly, and death, I know about that too. I've tasted heaven and made my bed in hell, and even there, God was with me. That's from chapter 1 of this book, Cross-Stitched. And now let me read just a little of the synopsis. You get a sense of who he is. First time I've read this. Whether I'm high or low, in heaven or hell, nothing can separate me from God's love. That's a quote from the book. Cross-Stitched is an inside look at baseball legend Jason Grimsley's wild and unbelievable life. And let me tell you, that's the truth. Jason shares hilarious stories about scaling the outside of a hotel at 3 a.m. while also opening up about the hardships he's faced, including a botched suicide attempt and the near destruction of his marriage. Filled with insight and wisdom for all the highs and lows of life, this book is a manual for how to have hope on your worst days and a guidebook for experiencing God's love in your life every single day. Oh man, I haven't read this yet. This is the first time I read this. I love it because that's the truth. That's what we were after when we were writing it. How can we invite people into the never-leaving love of God on their best days and on their worst days? Unfiltered and irreverent. Nice. It is irreverent. Jason's irreverent. Anyway, Cross-Stitched displays the very real and present love of God and the abundant life he offers us when we surrender to him. Yep, that's a good synopsis of the book and of the conversation we had. And we'll get to that in a second. But as always, guys, honored to be on the journey with you. You can find this podcast and all of my writing at afamilystory.org. Sign up for our mailing list and we'll keep you up to speed. You can find me at afamilystory.org and on all the socials at Jason Clark Is, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, at Jason Clark Is. You can find me on Facebook as well under my name. Guys, like, share, follow. If you're listening on iTunes, Apple, leave a review. It's helpful. And I want to thank you for supporting us. We've had a handful of folks support us specifically in the last several weeks. Very grateful and timely. I had a computer go down on me, and it's what I edit these on. And you may have noticed we missed a handful of podcasts because of it. As you can tell, I'm back up and running again. So very grateful for those who have given. And if you'd like to support this podcast or the ministry that takes place through A Family Story, you can do so at afamilystory.org. And we're a 501c3. We'd be very thankful. And you may have heard, but the book that I've been promising for a year It's now out. It's very similar to this one that we're going to dive into today with my friend Jason Grimsley. It's about the never leaving love of God. It's called Leaving and Finding Jesus. And it's my Emmaus Road deconstruction journey in which I awaken to the never leaving love of God. It's available on our website and where books are sold. All right, without further ado, excited about this conversation with my good friend, Jason Grimsley. Well, you're looking good, bro. You're looking good.
Got back from the gym.
Nice. That's on my to-do list today. Today's leg day, though, so I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, well, those are fun days.
I like the beard. This gray thing going on here.
Oh, yeah. Hunting season.
It's very distinguished, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if that and me collide in the same sentence, buddy.
Oh, it's good to see you. Hey, when's the book come out?
I believe November 29th
Okay.
is the date that we've come to.
Anyway, bro, good to have you.
Yeah, good to be seen.
It's good to be seen. Good to have you on the podcast, man. Good to have you face to face. We haven't been face to face in several months.
It's been a little while. You got to get back down here and get more shooting.
Yeah. The last time I saw you, actually the last two times I saw you, you took me out shooting. Let's say it for the record. I'm not half bad for the first time, right?
No, you're actually pretty dang good, to be honest with
you. I'll take it.
I was impressed.
Hey, I'll take it, man.
Yeah, now if you want to go ahead and post some of those videos we got on the podcast, you're more than welcome to.
I've got them. I'm saving them for when the book comes out. I've got a couple pictures of us, and I'm like saving them so that I can promote the book when it comes out. But
there you go,
Jason, man. So we met about a year ago through our mutual friend and agent, Esther Federkevich. We went around the idea of writing your memoir, of capturing parts of your story. And I was just telling somebody about you the other night. They asked me what I did. And I said, I get to help people write their story. And they asked me what I'd just done. And I told them about your book and who you were. And I said, man, this was the most fun, most joyous experience. And I enjoy writing books. I enjoy connecting with folks. But I said, the process is typically I meet with the person. They have to approve me. They got to feel good about me. And that happened fairly quickly, I think, on your end. And you can talk about it. But the other side is that I got to feel it as well. And typically early on in the conversation, I ask, look, do you know what your through line is? And you right off the bat were like, oh, yeah. You said your through line was that God doesn't leave you. And you referenced footprints in the sand. Bro, my heart leapt when you said that, because I was like, man, I can get on board on that idea all day long. And so I'd love to have you introduce yourself a little bit to the folks listening, tell a bit of your story, and then we'll dive in, man.
Name's Jason Grimsley. I'm redneck from a real small place in East Texas. I grew up out in the middle of woods. We were on a farm. Wouldn't trade anything for where I grew up. You think being that far removed from the big city, and we didn't have a whole lot growing up, and to think somebody that grew up where I did, that separated from the hectic life of the so-called real world,
right?
For me to be able to experience what I've experienced and have the opportunity to do the things I've been able to do is, I look back on it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But in one sense it is, in another sense, you can see God's plan throughout the whole thing. The ups, the downs, the really hard times, the abuse that I experienced as a young man,
yeah.
and then the loss that I experienced as a young man.
Yeah.
Just like you and I talked about when you asked me about the through line, I knew from the time I was born that I was loved.
Yeah.
Up and down everybody. It was, everybody, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
And the things I've experienced the pinnacle of success on a world stage.
Yeah.
And I've experienced the utter hopelessness of feeling like that you'd be better off if you didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
And people ask me, when I start telling my story, do you wish you could change anything? The only thing that I wish I could change was the hurt that I caused people.
Yeah, sure.
Especially my family,
Yeah,
and but the rest of it, not anything, because
yeah,
I don't think I'd I'd be the man I am today, the Christian man I am today, uh, and I'm going to put Christians in quotation marks because I still stumble
yeah,
daily.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
doubt about it. But with that, I've come to realize that when I stumble, God's there to catch me,
yeah,
and I didn't know that when I was younger,
bro.
and after I was saved the first time,
I love that.
uh, I ran from it.
Yeah,
It just goes to the goodness of God and the fact that we love because He first loved us.
yeah, that's it, bro. And we'll just I have you tell the story because this book jumps right in at the highest high and then the lowest low in chapter one. And you're such a brilliant storyteller, but I don't want to tell it for you, but I know you played with the Yankees. It's a huge, beautiful day. And we tell that story. I want to hear some of that story because it's an unbelievable story. And then the other side of that is that, I mean, how many years ago is it now?
It was August 21st, 2015.
And we're ready to take it all and end it. So, the thing that I loved when I first connected with you, and what I shared with you, and it just we resonated with it together. Is I said, listen, when I help people tell their story, I do it through the lens of reconciliation, meaning that we're going to go back and look at all the things in your life, but we're gonna see what God's role in all those things, and how, like you said, in hindsight, you can see how He was moving in your life, and you immediately finished that thought with, "Man, that's footprints in the sand." That's the idea of that poem, in which some folks may not know the poem, but the poem is essentially it's a staple for you and I growing up. It was on grandma's wall almost in half of America. But the idea that you're walking down a beach and Jesus is walking with you, and you see two sets of footprints, and then there's one set of footprints, and you realize in those moments that was the hardest season in life, and then you ask Jesus, where were you? And He says, in those seasons I was carrying you. And when you shared, you were like, yeah, man, I can look back on my life, and I can see where He was carrying me. Even with hindsight, I can see it, and how He sustained me. And like you said, I'm where I am today because of it. But dude, let's start with 1999. You've been playing baseball for a while now. You've been up and down. You've been killing it, fighting for it. There's so much story there, and you find yourself. Go ahead, dude. Tell that story.
Yep, Abe. In spring training in 1999, actually, my wife was and still is the rock in our family.
That's the truth.
She had been on me for the entire time we've been married, which at that time had been 7 years, about church. And I was of the firm belief, happy wife, happy life. Although I didn't live it that much, but when it came to going to church, I unless I had a hunting trip or a golf game, I would go with her. And every time I went in, I felt like a hypocrite.
Right.
1999 spring training, we went to an Easter production, and I literally saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
And I broke down and I looked at Dana and I told her, I said, I want to give my life to the Lord. And met up with George McGovern. He's the chaplain for the Yankees and the other sports teams in New York. He's real big into FCA and athletes in action. And George became sort of a mentor of mine and walked me through the process, and had some great teammates:
Yeah.
Andy Pettit, Scott Brocious, Bernie Williams, Mariano Rivera,
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
guys that were strong Christian men.
Yeah.
And they sort of mentored me and got me in the process. So we get to New York, and I asked George McGovern to baptize me, and we decided we're going to do it on a Sunday. It was April 25th,
Yeah.
1999, and we go to Lake Armonk in New York, and Scott Brocious, Andy Pettit, Chad Curtis, my wife, my two boys, I believe my mother-in-law was there at the time, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. And
Your pregnant wife, right?
go to Lake
Yeah.
Elmo. Yep, yep.
With
She was
Rain, yeah.
pregnant with my daughter Rain, who actually helped me set all this up because I'm computer illiterate.
I just
Yeah,
got to see her
and
again. So cool.
so
Yeah.
we get in the water and it was cold. It was cold, and
Yeah.
I remember when George put me in the water, I wanted to keep my eyes open because I wanted to see everything.
Right.
When he came out, it was just one of those joyous occasions, and it's just been an incredible day already. And we had a day game that day, and we get to the ballpark, and it's Joe DiMaggio Day. They were honoring Joe DiMaggio. He passed away the winter before.
Right.
All the old timers were there. You had Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, Phil Rizzuto, Ron Guidry,
Right.
Catfish Hunter. Right towards the end of his life, he was actually in the clubhouse. Ron Guidry, Goose Gossage.
And
Just some
this was the dream, right? Like this was your
heavy,
first
heavy
season
hitters.
with these guys. Like this is the pinnacle. This is right.
Yeah, this is the first time I walk in the clubhouse. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I walk around talking to them, shaking their hands, introducing myself. Tell
Dude.
them what a privilege it is to be able to just wear the same uniform that those guys wore. And so I get through and I walk over to my locker, and Bernie Williams is an incredible, accomplished guitarist. And he and I were talking early in the year, and he had told me, he said, "Hey, bring your guitar in. We got an empty locker between ours. Just set it in there, and I'll show you a couple things." So I'm walking to my locker, and Bernie's sitting in his chair, and he's facing me, and somebody's sitting in my chair facing Bernie, and they have my guitar. Well, the first thing that goes through my head, all right, who the hell's got my guitar? And I sit down, it's Paul Simon.
Yeah, dude.
So far, I've been baptized. It's Joe DiMaggio Day. I've met the old timers, and I've got to sit down and play the guitar with Paul Simon. I'm having a pretty good day.
Right. Right.
And it's pretty hectic in the clubhouse. There's the old timers in there. Billy Crystal's in there, huge Yankee fan.
Right.
He's got his uniform on, and he wants to go play catch. Well, nobody go out and play catch. We're not having bat practice or anything. So I say, heck, I'll go play catch with you, Billy. So we go out there. We're playing a little catch. It's like a 10, 15-minute comedy show. He's the way he's interacting with the fans and me. It's, I'm just, here I am, Jason Grimsley, the 25th man on the roster.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so far I've I was baptized and met the old timers, guitar Paul Simon. I played catch with Billy Crystal. It's been a pretty good day.
Right.
Yep. So game starts. We're playing the Blue Jays. We got a 1-run lead going the ninth. Mariano Rivera comes in. There's no argument about it. Best closer it's probably ever put on uniform or ever will put on uniform. And he goes out. So game's over. Well, Mariano gives up a run. I think it's the only save he blew all year. And I end up coming in and pitching and getting my first win as a Yankee. So on April 25th, 1999, I was baptized, got to meet the old timers, play the guitar, Paul Simon, catch with Billy Crystal, and got my first win as a Yankee.
It was a very good day.
That was a good day.
It was a very good day. And we actually opened the book with that story. And then we kind of traverse through those days, and we traverse through some of the dark days. The thing that I think really marked you is you said it, the phrase, a 25th man on a 25-man roster, like, the journey to get to that day, all the ways in which you had chased down your dreams and the personality, the way that, the type of personality you are, man. Nobody messed with you, right?
Not really. No, not a lot. Yeah. I didn't take criticism very well. I was a guy that was shoot, ready, aim, so to speak.
Yeah. You did it your way.
There's no doubt about that.
And a lot of that is your personality. A lot of that is, I got to know you, right? Like you're just like, go do it, get it done type of guy. But I know you mentioned it on the front end of this. I know, this book really is about as raw as it gets. Like part of the joy of writing this with you is you were like, bro, hold nothing back. The whole point of me telling this story isn't to just to tell you about the highlights of my life, to tell you how awesome it is, but to be able to open up my heart in a way that helps somebody, that would help somebody discover that they're loved. Because even as you're in the middle of this high moment, you referenced it the first time you got saved. I would say the first part of your life in some ways was a prodigal. The next several years of you kind of played that prodigal son role, but the next several years of your life, you were playing that older brother role, striving for God. And a lot of that was tied to some of the junk that happened in your childhood. And what was fun was to go back to your childhood. I met your parents, right? I met your brother and your sister-in-law, and I got to see where you grew up, and I got to see Targeton, and the places that you grew up, and you were a regular Texas boy in the 70s, man. Like you rode motorcycles, you played hard, you wrestled with alligators, you hunted with your uncle. Like you got so many crazy, intense stories. Where life and love and light was happening, and like you said, you knew you were loved, and then in the middle of that, you were abused at one point, and that marked you, and it caused you to become the man's man. And I don't want to put words. I say I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what I did. That was you and I did that together. So I'm trying to set you up to be able to articulate that God was there in those years, and there was so much goodness happening, but also some things that you hid, things that happened to you that followed you all of those days, even on the high days. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit to that, maybe your childhood and wherever you want to say,
Yeah,
man.
when I was real young, probably started when I was probably around 6 years old. Went on for a couple of years. There was an older boy, and I was molested.
Yeah,
And it was shown to me as a game. And the part that I ran from was there was part of me that I think enjoyed it. That was the hardest thing come to grips with.
well, at 6, it's a confusing thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It was. And it scarred me in a way that I didn't realize at the time. It made me to where there was something I had to prove to myself in every situation,
yeah, right.
that I wasn't weak, that I wasn't going to be taken advantage of.
Yep, yeah,
Um, it scarred the way that I thought about intimacy with a woman.
yeah,
Um, and there's still those scars now today.
yeah,
When you're that young, there's something that goes on that you don't really understand. You just sort of build a box around it and you bury it,
sure.
and you don't acknowledge it. And I can see, looking back on it, why I reacted in situations, and why I basically didn't have a whole lot of fear
Yeah,
of anything growing up.
right. Show no fear. Yeah, attack life.
Yeah, there was that was in everything.
Yeah,
In some ways that's what helped me do what I did for a living, but in other ways it was just a cancer that was growing in me, that was going to just consume me at some point down my life, and it ended up happening.
yeah, yeah. When we were writing this, you're processing all these amazing things, and then you have all these stories, and they're these great stories, baseball stories where when you're playing, you were a man that couldn't be messed with, and those make for great stories. Like the time you were arrested, for what was it, littering?
Right, right, yeah. No, it was, yeah, it wasn't a good situation. I again handled it extremely wrong. Walked out of a bar with the beer, and police officer rode up on a bike. And I didn't like the fact that he's on a bike and he's wearing shorts. and gave me a ticket for open container, and I didn't take too well to that, so I kind of threw the ticket, and it didn't hit him in a very good spot, and he wanted to hit me with his stick, and I wouldn't let him, and sort of escalated, and uh, ended up with my hands behind my back and handcuffs on me, getting kicked and hit with a stick for a while.
uh, there's a lot of these stories that you can tie into that man's man thing, that journey you were on.
Yep.
But I mean, you're the 25th man, 25 man roster. But one of the first things that we dove into is you were also a man not to be messed with. Like, you had a reputation within the league as an incredible teammate. Everybody who was your teammate loved to be your teammate, but nobody wanted to be on the wrong side, to be in any way, shape, or form cross you.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. If you were wearing the same uniform we're wearing on that field, I was there to protect you,
Yeah,
and I did that. I didn't have to be asked to do it.
right,
Off the field, pretty much the same thing went. There's a bunch of times where
right.
we got in some pretty good. If they were, I tell everybody all the time, if they had camera phones when I started playing, I don't think I'd have made it.
I know this though, man. I know everybody would want you as a friend. I'd want you any room I walked into. I'd want you behind. Because you got my back. You always have my back. That's who you were, right?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have your back. I'd have your front. I'd jump. I'd probably jump in the middle. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm at the point now to where I will do everything I can to de-escalate a situation.
Yeah, yeah,
Last thing I want to do is hurt somebody or hurt myself or
yeah, yeah,
cause my family any pain. I've done enough of that. So
yeah,
it's the one thing when I came into baseball in the mid '80s, if you were a Christian, you were considered weak. You got all the images of Jesus. He's holding a lamb. He's very passive.
yeah,
That was the stigma that was attached to being a Christian, and I've come to realize that ain't the case at all. You got the Jesus of Revelation. With
yeah,
fire coming out of his eyes and shimmering bronze feet.
yeah,
That's a little different image John's talking about,
yeah,
and I'm a firm believer that God gave us all abilities, and He created every one of us exactly how He wanted to create us, and I'm not gonna stifle that. I'm gonna be who God created me to be, and starting to realize that more and more. And
yeah,
I had one of my friends give me a compliment that I really appreciated. He said, "Jason, I don't know if you know this or not, but the reason I really enjoy you is because you're extremely comfortable with who you are." And that's one of those some of those scales being removed from my eyes when I'm looking in the mirror.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I know I overreact some certain times, but God wired me this way for a reason. You know, I'm a protector. I'm not going to change
Yeah.
that.
That's part of what drew Dana to you. So that your wife Dana, like, he referred to her as the Rock, and I think when you started telling the story of how you guys met, I mean, that was that protector part of you was how God created you, and the real journey is coming into wholeness, where that's actually operating out of wholeness and not out of anxiety or desperation or fear or trying to prove something. And I think, when I tell people about this story, this is the way I tell it, which is pretty catchy. I say, man, he's a East Texas boy, 25th man on a 25 man roster, played in the league 20 years. High point was with the Yanks, 99 and 2000. Got a couple of pennants. And then from there I say, and in 2015 he walked in the woods, put a gun to his head, pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off. And I said, and from that day to this day, he has had an awakening to the love of God that has transformed his family, himself, his family, his friendships, and he's still on that journey. And it's that moment where you come to the cross. I said he had a cross moment. He had a cross moment where everything got laid down and where all things got stripped away and nothing was left but but the cross, but Jesus, but either life or death, and there was there's been a restorative process that's been taking place ever since. And I think what you're talking about is, how are you comfortable in your own skin? Well, my goodness, man, when you walk down the road you walk down, you learn the truth that he doesn't leave or forsake me, that he actually is in the business of reconciling and restoring. So, I mean, I'd love for you to share a little bit into that, bro, because that's the story, right? That's the story you wanted to tell people.
Yeah, that was the beginning of me realizing that I was loved.
Right.
And I knew my family loved me, uh, but the lie that I believed and that I was told was that I'd cause so much hurt and so much pain that everybody would be better off if I wasn't around, if that hurt was gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's the lie we see every day on everything that is thrown at us from,
Yeah.
media, television, whatever. It's all about hurt. It's all about pain. It's all about revenge.
Bro.
There's not a whole lot of love being thrown out there. And
Yeah.
and in that moment when I sat down, and all I could say was, all right, God, you won't let me live, you won't let me die. That was me being selfish, saying, all right,
Sure.
you won't let me do this, you won't let me do that, instead of me looking at it from the perspective of, no, I've gotten you out of the way,
Right.
and I want you to look at me now.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, when I said, okay, what now? Because I don't have anything left. Here I am. I'm not alive. I'm not dead. What do you want from me? And the simple answer that I received was, I don't want anything from you.
Wow, bro. That's huge.
I just want you to know that you're loved. You're my child, and you matter.
That's called the good news, my friend.
And and it took a few years.
Yeah.
For me to really grab a hold of it, because there's days
Yeah.
that I struggled after that. There's days I struggle now.
Yeah.
But I have the tape to play back in my head,
Yeah.
and the experience to know that those thoughts that I get, they're not from God. Those are from me, from this world. And I know I'm broken, and I'm not gonna be whole until Jesus comes back and we all experience his presence.
You talk about, the days after that, and I mean, and again, in this book, you really, you share the whole story. And what was really powerful for me was getting to talk to Dana, getting to talk to your kids and your family, and how open everyone was. I mean, painful. This is a painful conversation to have,
Oh yeah.
but a conversation that was full of hope and full of life and expectation and miracles, that God was restoring this, and he was redeeming that, and the relationships that have continued to grow. And the fact that you and Dana are navigating life together, because I mean, you were on the cusp of a breakup at that moment. And the fact that your kids are the relational connections, all of that was so powerful for me. And to hear, that it was after that you went to counseling, and actually, you didn't just play the game of counseling. You opened up your heart, and you participated, and eventually what happened to you as a child came out. And so, when things aren't hidden, suddenly they can, when they're brought into the light, there's opportunity for healing and wholeness, and
Yep.
shame is removed, and condemnation is removed. And so for me, I when I talk about you, I'm like, it's like 2015. It hasn't been an easy journey from there to here, but I would say, based off of our conversations and who I know you to be, that it's been one of trust and faith, and learning how to be whole, like learning how to be a protector without not protecting out of desperation, but out of wholeness. And Is that a fair way to define what you've been in the last several years?
Yeah, I think it is.
Describe them.
It's still have moments of failure on a grand scale, but I think the moment that really changed everything, and I know there's no doubt in my mind it was a God moment, was I was about a month out of out of the last rehab that I went to,
Yeah,
and sure I got sober, um, but there wasn't a lot of God in the rehab facility, um,
sure.
and then I've been going to counseling, and I was still of the mind that she would be better off if she didn't have to deal with
Right.
with any of the baggage or any of the hurt that I'd caused her, and I'd caused a lot. And I was thinking about getting an apartment, and already looked at one, thinking about moving out. And my wife came to me and said, "Jason, none of this works without you."
Yeah, powerful story, man. Powerful woman.
And in that moment, I not only saw her love,
Yeah.
but I saw the love that the Lord had for me, for her, for my family,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was the game changer.
Man. Yeah, this is, I mean, it's not just your story, right? Like this book is her story. It's the legacy you're leaving to your kids. It's their story. But I was my interactions with Dana and the faith that she walked in, and her willingness to say, there were times when I was trying to make Jason do things, trying to, based off of her understanding and her faith, her own personal trust of God. Uh, but man, the story of her speaking that over you, bro. I mean, I think that's probably why we're sitting here having this conversation today.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
That was, when you go through the book, you think the moment when I went out in the woods and I had the gun, that was the pivotal moment. That
No.
that was just God getting me ready to show me the love that He had for me and for my wife and for my family.
Yeah. Wow, bro. Yeah. Yeah. Which is what the whole thing's about. Last chapter is the whole point is that God is reconciling and restoring all things. And
Yep.
that you can look back and see the places where he doesn't leave you. He's never left or forsaken us. That neither death nor life, nothing separates us from his love. And all the ways in which he's walked beside you when you didn't even know him. I found that to be amazing is when you can look back over your life and go, you talk about saying a prayer at one point in a church service, but you were like, I don't know, I just kind of went up and then God was not front and center, and then he was a part of your life, but almost in a peripheral way, or almost to please your wife. And yet, in hindsight, you can look back and go, that was real. That's when he touched me. That was powerful.
Yeah.
And he's restoring it even now. It was such a privilege to be able to sit and talk with your kids, because we actually go through that day, and we go through the leading up to that day, and then the days after. And man, to hear the way your kids talked, through that day, and the scariness of that day, and what that was, but then through that day into the current moment that we're in now, and to hear them describe who you are and their family and their mom, and that we're all in the same house together, when I came and visited, and we're all there we're breaking bread together. And uh, bro, I'm blown away by the goodness of God revealed in your story.
Yep. That's it. He never makes mistakes. I know that. You know, um,
Yeah.
my daughter tells a great story in the book, and I never knew it until you showed me.
It's so cool. It was so
Uh,
cool hearing it from her. I was like, oh my gosh, she just wrote the end of the book. This is
yeah,
perfect. It was so fun
yeah,
to send it to you.
yeah. It was an amazing thing. She was on a mission trip, And I think it was in Guatemala or Honduras. I can't really recall. And so they were down there helping to build water wells and helping and preaching the gospel in these small communities. And there was a man that was sitting off sort of by himself, and the way my daughter tells it, she said the Lord said you need to go speak with him. So she went over there and through an interpreter started talking, and the guy broke down. He said, that he was in a bad space, and Rain started sharing the gospel with him, and she told him the story about how God's love and God's redemption took her dad from who was lost, who was abusing alcohol, hard drugs, and just tore his family up, to the love and the redemption that he's had restoring our family, and the journey through that. And the guy broke down and said, "Yeah, I want what you have. I want that." He told her that his dad had an alcohol problem, had a drug problem, and how tough that was and what he was seeing. And he looked at Ray and he said, I want to feel like you feel.
Yeah.
And he accepted Christ right there with her.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing. And then my little girl said, the line that really grabbed me. She said, that's how powerful God is. God used our story, my dad's story, to help a man down here in the middle of Central America.
Yeah.
On this journey, she said, how good is our God and how powerful is our God? And that story just blew me away.
It's the testimony. It's the testimony of his goodness that, it's the kindness of God that leads us to repentance, and we're transformed through that kindness, through the changing of our minds. I mean, my gosh, bro. Yeah, when she shared it with me, because I didn't have a chance to interview her while I was down there, so I had to call her. And when she shared that story, I was like, I got the end of the book. This is the whole point.
Yeah, that's
and especially powerful because it's your daughter telling the story. So it's not just that she's bringing him into something, because it's the fullness of the connection that she has with you, and the fact that where there could have been a whole lot more to navigate, she's getting to navigate life with a dad who is continually in her life, first of all, and then continually growing in the love of God. It's beautiful, man.
Yep.
I got to say this. We kind of did some of the deep stuff. Like, this conversation went kind of into the deep stuff. But I got to say this, man, this book is full of fun stories. Like your childhood, man, like you've got so many fun, like just stories where you're driving things faster than you should have. You're riding boats faster than you should have. You're throwing things harder than you should have, climbing up buildings. You've got, the story where you got locked out of a hotel and, nothing stopped you. You were a full go guy. So this book is fun. This book is full of baseball stories too, right? Like, whether it's what's his name?
Albert Bell, the Albert Bell bat.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's a famous baseball story that exists to this day where you, I don't know. You want to tell the story?
Sure. Yep. I was.
Yeah. Tell the story, man. Let's give them, there's like a pile of these in it. So
1994, I was with the Indians, and we were in Chicago, and we were, I think, within a game of them for the lead in the AL East. We're playing, game starts. We're sitting there, and Albert Bell, he's the third hitter. He comes up. Well, Gene Lamont, the manager from the White Sox, goes to the umpire and talks to him, and they want to inspect Albert's bat. So they look at it, and they're looking at it, and the umpire calls a guy out, and they take the bat. Albert gets another bat. Well, I look down the dugout, and Mike Hargrove, our manager, has got his hands in his head. His head in his hands. He's leaning down, Buddy Bell sitting next to him, and I look at Buddy. I said, "Buddy, what's wrong with Grover?" He said, "We're screwed." I go, "What do you mean?" He said, uh, "Albert's done for at least 10 days." I go, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, that bat's corked." He said, "Everybody has corked." So I look at Buddy in that moment, and this so happened that day when I got to the ballpark, the umpires were walking in. I was talking to them a little bit, and I noticed that their room was on our side of the tunnel that was behind home plate.
Right.
And don't know what possessed me to say it or even think it, but I looked at Buddy. I said, "Buddy, I think I can get that bat." He said, "All right, I'll be right back." So he went and talked to Grover, and Grover went, "All right, go get it." So I went in the clubhouse. Gabe Kapler was the clubhouse manager. And I told Gabe, I said, "Gabe, I need a flashlight, and I need you to forget that I asked for a flashlight." He said, "Okay." Well,
That's my favorite part of this. One of my favorite parts of the story.
so I went and,
Because he worked for the facility.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't think, Gabe never said anything to anybody.
Yeah, no kid. Gabe's the hero of this story. Garrett, go ahead.
Gabe's a good man. But so I proceeded to got a Paul Sorrento bat because Albert didn't have one that was corked, and scuffed up a little bit, pulled up a ceiling towel, crawled up in the ceiling, started crawling on. I think there were 16-inch cinder blocks.
Yeah, this is all while the game's happening.
Oh, the game's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Proceeded climbing over all kind of electrical cords around air conditioning ducts, all kind of obstacles over the walls, and got pretty tight in there a couple times. But I got to where I thought the umpire's room was, lifted up a towel, and I looked down, and it was the grounds crew area. And the guy sitting on the couch looked up at me. And all I did was put my hands up to my mouth and like that, and he gave me the okay sign.
The shush sign.
I don't think he ever said anything either.
Oh my gosh.
So I put the towel back down, took a breath, and found the umpire's room, crawled down there, swapped the bats out, crawled back out of the room, tried to clean it up as best I could, but apparently I made a little mess. And as soon as I set the ceiling towel down, the clubhouse attendant walked back in. So I had to sit there for about 10 minutes, breathing through my mouth, trying to not make any noise while he was doing what he needed to do.
Right.
And he left, and I crawled back. Took me about 4.5 innings to get it done, and they got all Albert's bats out of there. And next day I'm in the outfield. Mike Lavalier, who was catcher with the White Sox, their dugout was on the left-hand side, and I was on the right-hand side, and I'm over in right field during batting practice. And nickname was Spanky, so he made his way over to me and never looked at me, just come up, stood next to me and said, "Hey, dude, I heard you had a Mission Impossible last night." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Dude, that's awesome." He went back. Well, John, funny part was a couple days later, a GM basically told baseball that I had done it because the owner from the White Sox, his name was Reinsdorf at the time, he said he was bringing the FBI in. They were going to press charges. Whoever did it was going to jail. So came to be known that I had done it. So I had to go to the commissioner's office in New York. So I met Michael Weiner and Donald Fair, who were our union lawyers and representatives at the time, at the offices in New York. And we're down in the lobby, and Don Fair says, "Jason, he's probably going to suspend you. He's probably going to fine you. But just know we're going to appeal it. We'll do what we need to do."
Right.
All right. So we go up to the office, and Bud walks in, and he sits down. He looks at me.
Bud, say his name. His whole for
Bud Selig.
Yeah, Bud Selig. Yeah,
he was the commissioner of baseball at the time.
Basically, yeah.
So Bud looks at me. He says, "Jason, I'm not going to fine you. I'm not going to suspend you. Just tell me the story." So I tell him the story, and he's shaking his head and he's laughing. He says, "Gosh dang, son, you one hell of a teammate." He said, "Just keep it quiet." I said, "All right." So I did until 1999 in spring training, and Buster Onley, who was a writer with Philadelphia when I was there, and he was on the plane with us. And he was now writing for, I think it was the Yankees or ESPN, I forget where he was at the time, but he came to me and he
Right.
said, "Jason, I got a question to ask you." I said, "Sure, uh, sure, Buster." He said, "I need you to get a message to the guy that took Albert's bat from the umpire's room.
Right.
If I got permission for Bud City to tell a story, do you think he'd tell a story?" I said, "Well,
I've heard you know that guy, right? Something to that extent.
I know Buster. Well, yeah." So I said, "Yeah, Buster." I said, "You know, if you, I'll see if I can find a way to talk to
Yeah.
him." So a day or so later, Buster comes back. He said, "Well, Bud said I could tell the story." So I said, "All right, Buster, I'll sit down and tell it to you, but just make sure that I don't want it to come out during spring training because I'm there as a non-roster invitee.
You're trying to make him.
I'm trying to make the team."
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay." So I
Yeah.
sat down and told him the story, and he did the same thing. He's just shaking his head too. And well, make the team first day of season. There it is, Batgate solved. You know, right there, and then
There it is. Backgate. That's it. That's what it's called, by the way, guys. It's called Backgate. If you Google Jason Grimsley and corked bat, you'll find all kinds of articles on Backgate.
yeah. So Buster told the story, and you know, finally was revealed that I was the guy that crawled through the rafters, took the bat.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What about Tommy Lasorda?
Tommy Lasorda,
tell tell that story, man.
yeah, Tommy was a character. He was he was a character. So there's a game. There's a close play at third base, and the Dodgers were hitting, and
The opposing team. He's on the opposing team. He's managing. Yep. Yep.
he's on the play. I'm with Philly at the time, and when I say character, that man, he was something else to watch. You never had to doubt where you stood with Tommy Lasorda. He's going to let you. Tommy comes sprinting out, well, not sprinting, comes waddling out of the dugout. So he's out there, and he was notorious for getting thrown out of ball games. Well, he goes out there and he's screaming and hollering at the umpire, and he's turning around, pointing at the stands, goes over, points at the base,
Right.
kicks dirt, picks the base up, puts it back down. Just so, you know, it's just a show.
Right.
And umpire didn't throw him out. And everybody's going, "What in the world's going on here?" So Tommy walks back in the dugout. Umpire didn't throw him out.
Right.
So the next day I go in and clubhouse. Well, the clubhouse guy was I guess he was helping the umpire's room. And he said, "Dude, I got to tell you a story." He said, "You know why Tommy didn't get thrown out last night?" And I said, "I got no idea." And he said, "Well, umpire said Tommy came running out there, and all he could say was, 'That's the best call I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how you got it right, but you did.'" He said the whole time he was just praising me about how good an umpire I was. I said,
That's so.
that's Tommy.
That's one of my favorites. I love that story. Man, the book's full of them, full of baseball stories. All of them with a through line, right? All of them toward one end, the never leaving, always good love of God, restoring and reconciling, and bringing us into wholeness in life. And I got to be honest, man. I'm super proud of this book. I am so excited about it coming out. I can't encourage people enough to go get it. It's such an authentic. You're such a personality. Like writing for you was such a joy because you're just you're a person. Everything's out in the front. Everything's full on and full go and also you know what it's if you're a storyteller you can make having a cup of coffee interesting, but it's a whole lot easier when you're telling a story about a guy that's climbing the balconies one after the other because he couldn't get into his room because he left his room key with his teammate. So the way in which you approach everything with humility, man, I just appreciate it that you're man in process, that you know the love of God, and you know the journey isn't done, but it's a good one, and that He's a good God, and it was an honor to write it with you, man, and
Oh, thank you. I couldn't have, when Esther recommended you, I had no idea what to think. He said you were Canadian. That was strike one.
Strike one.
But then we met, and you'd ask if you want to get a hotel room. I said, no, you're gonna stay with me. And he came into the house, and I immediately knew you're the right person to help me through this journey.
Yeah. Dude, yeah.
There was a connection there, and
yeah.
I really enjoyed you being around you, and
Yes. Appreciate
you're a
it,
good
man.
man. I knew that the first time that I was able to shake your hand.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm. You said normally it's my line when I'm writing with somebody that we're going to be friends, but you took it before I could say it. You were like, "No, we're going to be friends," and so I feel that, and I'm looking forward to the days ahead where I'm sure our lives are full and busy, but I got a chance to meet you and meet your family and get to know them, and I'm richer for it, and
As am I.
excited
Yeah.
about. Yeah, man. So this is Rethinking God with Tacos, bro. I've told you a little bit about it. The folks that are typically listening to this, we do what we just did. We talk about the goodness of God. We tell our stories, and we talk about the ways in which He was better than we thought He was. And then at the end, we talk about tacos. Just the reason I called it Rethinking God with Tacos is because I didn't want to take myself too serious. Like I'm no great big theologian. I'm a guy that loves Jesus, loves talking to friends, and loves tacos. so I got to ask you, because this is the you're in Texas, and this is we ask all the guests, and sometimes I have a co-host, but we ask all the guests. You got a taco story? You're a taco guy. You got anything that you can tell me? I mean, I know you played down in South America, so you've got to have had some legit tacos.
Yeah, you know what? In Venezuela, it was more steak and empanadas. To be honest with you.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
That'll work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a story about empanadas. So the first year Dana and I were married, I was in Venezuela in the winter, and she actually came to stay with me for a few weeks.
So you're playing winter ball.
And yeah, playing winter ball. And when she flew into Caracas, so we had a great man. His name was Miguel. He was the driver for one of the generals of the army down there, and he actually took me into Caracas to pick up Dana. So she got in pretty late, so we're driving back. She's hungry, so we stopped at a little place where you get gas or food, whatever, and they had empanadas.
Nice.
So we got some chicken empanadas, beef empanadas, and we're driving back. And she ate like half of one, and I ended up eating another half of that one and another one that she got along with mine. And we get back to the hotel, and she just gets violently sick for about a week. We have the doctor comes in, they got to give her an IV. It's not good.
Yeah.
And she's looking at me, and she said, "Why don't you get sick?" I go, "Sweetheart, I drink the water down here. I eat anything down here. I don't know what it is, but yep. I think I can drink the water in Mexico. I can eat anything. It doesn't bother me, but apparently my wife's not.
Bro, that's a Jason Grimsley story right there, man. Nothing touched you.
No doubt.
Hey, when's the book come out?
I believe November 29th.
Okay. And you can get it right now. You can pre-purchase it. Amazon, yes. I mean, where books are sold, probably. So. Anything else you want? You want to tell us where to find you? I know you don't do social media. Are you going to have a website? You know anything about that yet? We haven't talked about it.
No, not really. I think working with a great lady right now, Kathy Jacobson, who's helping me get all that in line.
Good.
We're actually getting ready to give her a call right now because I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have anything.
Is she going to help you with all of that?
I usually don't have my phone with me, so.
Yeah. Your daughter had to help you get on this call.
I'm not,
well, how old are you, man?
I'm 55.
55, but you act like you're 75 when it comes to technology.
Yeah, well, if it interests me, I would probably take a look at it, but it just doesn't do anything for me. I'd much rather
Yeah, I love it.
deal with people or be out doing something as opposed to being on my phone or, my wife still doesn't like the fact that I hardly ever answer my phone or don't have it with me. I go off and forget it all the time.
Well, you the things that you do love, you do full on. Like you said, we did some shooting together. You're a hunter. You love your kiddos. I know that. Whenever we talk, we always we take away what's going on in the kids' lives. And honored to call you a friend. The book is cross-stitched. It's coming out the end of November, you said. And I can't recommend it enough. I'm a bit biased, but I'm telling you guys, it's a life changer. I highly recommend it. And bro, thankful for you. Pass my love on to Dana and the kids. And
I do the same, buddy.
Yeah, man.
It was good. It was a good time, and I'm sure like I said, call your friend now. So
yeah, we'll do it again.
How to get a hold of me? Call my wife. We'll get touch.
I'm looking forward to the day with the four of us, our four Wyatt. We just go out and we maybe do something. Maybe we do tacos. That'd be all right.
That'd be a good time.
Hey guys, so glad you joined us on Rethinking God with Tacos. You can find me, Jason Clark, online at afamilystory.org, where I encourage you to sign up on our mailing list. We send out an email twice a month letting you know about new podcasts, articles, and new books or products that we have coming out. Plus, occasionally I'll keep you up on my schedule where I'm traveling. My Twitter handle is @JasonClarkIs. I'm on Instagram under the same handle, and you can find me on Facebook as well. Hey, all of these podcasts are available on all the platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google. If you could, like and share across all your media platforms and write a review on iTunes. It really does help expand the message and build the audience. Hey, love doing this journey with you. Praying grace and wonder over you today.